Hello, this is Rajeev. Today we'll be going over a few novels from Isabel Allende. Isabel Allende was born on August 2nd, 1942 in Lima, Peru, to Chilean parents. So Allende's life has been marred with worldly experiences and profound personal tragedies, which have shaped her narrative in most of the novels. Raised primarily in Santiago, Chile, Allende is daughter of Tomás Allende, a cousin of Salvador Allende, and Salvador was president of Chile. And her father was absent since a young age, and she was mainly raised by her mother and grandparents. Allende's early years were shaped by various moves, including a significant period in Lebanon and Bolivia due to her stepfather's diplomatic career. Her career in writing began in journalism in the 1960s and 70s of Chile, and these were very turbulent times of Chile as well. And she worked in various roles in print and TV media, focusing on issues of social justice in a kind of a turbulent Chile atmosphere, political atmosphere of those times. Allende's life took a dramatic turn after the military coup in 1973, which led to the assassination of President Salvador Allende, or her uncle. This was beginning of a harsh military dictatorship under General Augusto Pinochet, and we know from the history that Pinochet's regime and rule, there was a lot of turbulence for the people who were opposing him. And for safety and political reasons, Allende fled to Venezuela, where she lived in exile for about 13 years. During this period of exile, she began writing her novels. Her literary career was launched with the publication of The House of Spirits in 1982, and inspired by her grandfather's impending death and written as a letter to him. The novel sort of weaves together personal and the political narratives. Allende's work often features strong female characters that are imbued with sort of the magical realism and mysticism, and also tied to a lot of historical facts. And so it's historical fiction, mainly a lot of personally engaging love stories. And there is a readers with a lot of characters, and there is ample context that has been set in her stories, which are based on historical facts. So it's a sort of historical magical realism, but it's more, her novels are sort of a catharsis for most of the readers, at least personally for me they were. And the first novel we'll be going over today is A Long Petal of the Sea. The Long Petal of the Sea, the story begins in late 1930s when Spain is ravaged by civil war. And this is like a historical novel that is set spanning decades and even crosses continents. It follows the lives of two refugees from the Spanish Civil War. The main characters being like Victor Dalmau is a young army doctor, and Rosa Bruguera, who is a pregnant widow, and she's a pianist, and they find themselves caught in this whole turmoil. And Victor and Rosa are related to each other. He's the brother-in-law and she's the sister-in-law. So they are related because Rosa was in love with the brother of Victor, and she's now pregnant. And now they have to flee Spain after the fall of the Spanish Republic to the fascist General Franco. And Victor's brother dies in that battle as well, where Victor is an army doctor. So both of them, they have to embrace the uncertainty of exile. First, they go over to France because most of the refugees, they went from Spain to France, and from France they have to go on an exile that is offered in another continent. So with the aid of poet Pablo Neruda, who doesn't know Pablo Neruda's poetry? It's amazing poetry. I'll cover in a separate video of Pablo Neruda himself. And Pablo Neruda, who organizes a ship called Winnipeg, to take thousands of Spanish refugees to Chile. And this is an actual account that Pablo Neruda arranged for the ship. And both of them, Victor and Rosa, now have to sort of marry, and this is sort of beginning like due to circumstances in order to get on this journey and embark on this voyage of exile, and that promises safety for a fresh beginning and start of the life. So Neruda himself describes Chile, their destination, as the long petal of sea and wine and snow with a belt of black and white foam. So you know how Chile in the geographical map, it stretches long, right? That's the long petal of the sea. That's what Pablo Neruda is describing. And this vivid imagery that Pablo Neruda narrates, it symbolizes the hope and beauty of their new home back in Chile. And this is contrasting to their war-torn homeland of Spain. So upon reaching Chile, Victor and Rosa integrate into the Chilean society. So Victor leverages his medical skills and he becomes an influential cardiologist. So while Rosa pursues a career in music and as a pianist, right, and she's very much fond of music, and that's how they thrive with their careers. So the relationship, which is initially one of convenience because they had to get married in order to take this voyage on the ship Winnipeg, from Europe to South America. So now it was sort of a convenience to survive the journey, but it deepens into more of a love story. And this is what, when you read Isabel Allende's novel, it actually brings tears to your eyes, and it's sort of a cathartic experience for people who have gone through this ravages of war, getting displaced, have to move from one country to the other. It sort of resonates a lot with them. And Victor and Rosa now have to embrace the exile as the rest of Europe. So they left Europe, and now Europe also erupts into a world war. They patiently are waiting for the day of not being exiles and then returning back to their homeland. Through all these turbulent times, they are hoping of going back to Spain. And that's what keeps them going, the hope that they will be returning back to Spain keeps them going along in Chile. So the narrative now explores the personal and the romantic developments happening between Victor and Rosa that spans decades and weaves like significant historical events. And there was a Chilean military coup of 1973, and we know from Isabel's history as well, and that the uncle was assassinated in 1973, and the subsequent dictatorship of Augusto Pinochet, which follows, that involved a lot of repression of civil liberties, kidnappings, torture of political prisoners, and major disappearances of people who were opposing his regime and rule. So the troubles continue to exist. So this is the irony, right? Like the troubles continue to exist. It's as if they are destined to witness the battle between freedom and repression as it plays out across the world, away from Spain and from France and coming to Chile. Again, this sort of torturous environment continues. Turbulent times continue for them. And it's as if they are destined to find themselves into this trouble, even though they were escaping to find freedom and sort of stability in another continent and another country. So now, Victor, while facing the turbulent times in Chile, find that now they both seem like their home is much closer than imagined all along. They are facing the same kind of experiences. It's as if they never left home, even though they came out as exiles to Chile. It's like the turbulence never left them. The political turbulence mirrors troubled past of Spain, and they face challenges, all related to stability and survival in Chile. So the novel overall is sort of a testament to human resilience and the search for belonging. No matter where you're staying, where you're being displaced from, like there is the human resilience that goes along with it. So it portrays a strength that is required to rebuild one's life in the face of displacement and any kind of political upheaval, right? So it celebrates the enduring human capacity for love and solidarity amid like all this kind of adversity that is going along. So Allende crafts like a very compelling tale, and it captures the impact of historical events on individual lives, like how it impacts people, individuals, and how it causes displacement. And the turbulence continues. The history kind of repeats itself, and it can be relatable into a lot of the current times as well, where displacement is happening between countries of individuals and people. So very wonderful novel, and it provides like a very cathartic experience for people who have gone through something like this, like a displacement. The second novel we are going over is The Japanese Lover. So The Japanese Lover, this brought tears to me at the end of it. I was sitting around and reading in the El Dorado Hills Library. So the story itself revolves around Alma Belasco, an elderly Polish Jewish woman, and the sort of enduring relationship with Ichime Fukuda, the son of a Japanese gardener. And the novel actually starts out in modern-day San Francisco at the Lark House, which is a retirement community where Alma resides. And she's one of the residents there in the Lark House. And as the narrative unfolds, it dives back in time to Alma's past that reveals she has like tumultuous wartime history around the year 1939, around beginnings of the World War II. And as a child, Alma is sent to San Francisco from Poland to live with her wealthy relatives, the uncle and aunt. And this is to escape the Nazis' invasion into Poland. And apparently, like, Alma's family there gets killed, and it is here when Alma comes over to San Francisco, she meets Ichime, who is a young Japanese boy, and his family works as gardeners for the rich aunt and uncle at their homes in San Francisco. So despite the different backgrounds, right, of Alma and Ichime, they form like a deep bond which blossoms into a secret romance. And this is where the young love is brewed, interrupted by the outbreak of World War II. And Japan attacks Pearl Harbor, and now there are internment camps that are established for Japanese Americans. So Ichime and his family are sent to this internment camp, and even though they are separated, Alma and Ichime continue to correspond through letters. And over years, despite following different paths, Alma marries into the Belasco family, one of the sons there of people who took care of her in San Francisco. That's the Belasco family, and she marries into one of the sons there. And Ichime returns back to Japan. Meanwhile, they maintain this clandestine relationship and also end up meeting in some places around the world. And mainly their interaction has been through letters. And this is what I found in Isabel Allende's novels. Like, there is a lot of letters, and these letters, they are crafted in such a way with such beautiful lyrical prose. It's amazing. Simplistic language when somebody else is writing the letters, right? But it follows up with the lyrical prose as well. So throughout the novel, Allende introduces secondary characters at the Lark House, the retirement community, and they have their own complex backstories that are contributing to this rich tapestry. One of the person there is Irina Basili. She is a Moldovan immigrant. She arrives at the Lark House retirement community, and she's hired to take care of residents on the second and third levels of the home. So there are different levels of the home, and she's asked not to go to specific levels of the home where like basically she is not allowed Irina to enter specific floors, and she is like kind of taking care of people who require constant supervision and care. Irina develops a good reputation, which brings her to the attention of Alma Velasco. And Irina has some incident due to which she acts very honestly, and that's what Alma Velasco is attracted. She has attracted the attention of Alma, and she becomes Alma's personal assistant in addition to her job at Lark House. So now Irina discovers that Alma is a very strong woman with a mysterious past, and she sets out to uncover the details of Alma's life along with Alma's grandson. And the grandson, Alma's grandson, and Irina now kind of try to investigate, and they suspect that Alma is seeing a lover periodically, and they hope to uncover the lover's identity along with Alma's life story. So now Alma explains how she came to San Francisco as a young girl to live with her aunt and uncle, and the lens of these characters and the way they are trying to have a dialogue, it provides a broader social commentary on the issues such as racial prejudice, aging, and the challenges of accepting one's identity. And overall, there is very delicate handling of central romantic relationship, and how the secrecy is maintained, the societal pressures that one has to go to, and there is enduring love for nearly an entire lifetime, right? And Allende is weaving these historical details into personal stories, and that makes it very engaging narrative that spans decades. And mostly her novels, I have noticed, are spanning multiple decades. And essentially, I like this theme, which is very important for a historical narrative. And it's sort of a meditation on the romantic love and the love at first sight, right? Like that Alma and Chile experience, and how it can continue for decades and decades under any circumstances that doesn't break. And very good intertwining of the historical events as well in this novel. So wonderful novel. I would encourage anybody to go and read The Japanese Lover. The third novel we are going through today is Violeta. So Violeta, it's a very interesting novel. At first it seems very simplistic, right? And the narrative traverses personal and political upheaval that mirrors the changes that were occurring in the 20th century of South America. Violeta is born in 1920 into a once wealthy family, and it was a very stormy day that marks the birth of her and the beginning of her life that will be filled with dramatic highs and lows. And her birth comes at a time when there is overall global turmoil. And this is around the time of the Spanish flu that is hitting South America. It hit earlier in Europe, and finally it has found its way to South America. And Violeta's life is shaped by forces of history that spans the Great Depression to the rise and fall of dictators, and much, much beyond that. So you have to read this as a story. If a person lives to be 100, or even 90, 80, let's say, Violeta ends up living to the age of 100, right? And what would such a memoir look like is how you should be reading it. And this is a life which is going through many ups and downs. So Violeta's family ends up losing their fortune during the Great Depression, and this forces them to go back from the city to a rural area to start fresh. Everything has to start again. And this shift from wealth to poverty and back again is sort of a recurring theme in Violeta's life and reflects her resilience and adaptability. The novel is structured around Violeta recounting the life events in the form of a letter to her grandson, Camilo. And this is what I mentioned about the letters, right? And The Japanese Lover has letters, and this one has letters as well. Through this intimate perspective, the readers experience Violeta's joys and sorrows, loves and losses. So Violeta's relationships are at the heart of this whole narrative in the novel. She grew up with her brother when they moved back into the rural area, and the poor family showered her with love and protection. Even though they were very poor, there was a lot of love and protection. And then she marries a man who was son of an affluent European hoteliers. But the marriage was largely sexless, and doomed, right? And this is the difference. Poor with a lot of love and protection, but rich but lacking and deficient in many ways, is how I personally took and read this. And Violeta, meanwhile, falls in love several times, and the most notable one is with Julian the pilot, who captures her heart but gives her a lot of pain as well. So there is someone who captures your heart but also gives you pain, right? So look at that beauty in that contrast, and that's what Violeta's life is filled with. And there are many occurrences. And what could you have as a memoir when you have these contrasting experiences, right? And that's what this novel explores. So even as a young woman, Violeta had a lot of business acumen. So she set up a company along with her brother in the construction industry and was very successful and able to support herself and her family without being dependent on any of her lovers or the wealth related to them. So sort of this whole journey, it talks about how in the sort of a memoir that is a very interesting one, and Violeta certainly has a very interesting life, and she's telling this story from the perspective of a person who has aged, right? So she's writing when she has got all that wisdom from her age, and she's able to reflect back on her mistakes as well as celebrate her life's achievements. So there are both. So there is a lot of mistakes that she makes, and also there is so many accomplishments. And what are sort of the hurdles that come along even when you have these life's accomplishments and the achievements? It is a wonderful first-person narrative, and Violeta's story is a tale of a woman that is navigating in a male-dominated society of 20th century and showcasing her pioneering entrepreneurship, and becomes involved in various ventures, showing the complete determination and business acumen in a time when such roles were sort of rare for the women, when women were trying to fight the rights in the 20th century. And Allende uses Violeta's life story to explore the themes of love, the loss that everybody goes through, family, and the search for happiness, which is always there in any human being. And the novel delves into social issues such as the gender roles, political unrest, the economic instability, and what happens with the times. There is always ups and downs, and how we need to deal with it. And that's what Violeta's narrative is showing the grandson. And through Violeta's eyes, the readers are given sort of a very panoramic view of a century with significant change, both in the personal world as well as in the society. So it captures the essence of a woman's journey through the century of the turbulent times. And certainly I would recommend anybody to read this and sort of think of their life as their own memoir, not as something lost, but there is a lot of mistakes everybody makes, and there is a lot of accomplishments as well. So it's about celebration of life, and that's what this novel was for me. And hope you get to read this and enjoy this. So that's it for today, until we come up with another novelist and their novels. So bye for now.